What is going on? It is the Pick and Roll podcast live edition today. We are going to be doing the DK slate for the night, NBA fantasy basketball. So if you're tuned in, get all of that juicy lineup advice from myself and Al Hunter. What's going on, Al?
What's good, man? I'm pumped about the slate. It's a massive slate, 11 games.
Yeah, one of the rare days this week that you're not going to be at the Celtics game.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not tonight. No.
So that's why we're doing this. We're coming to you live here. We got an awesome 11-game slate. I'm actually very excited to talk about. So let's get started. Let's talk about the point guards. For me, obviously you could consider LeBron, but you're going to play him at the small forward. For me, at the top of the list is Dame Lillard. And I like him back in the lineup right now. I like what I saw last game. I think it's a good matchup against Chicago. And I actually like Damian Lillard a lot at that point guard.
Yeah, he looked good returning after missing those couple games. And Chicago's always been weak against guards, but they kind of improved defensively this year. I still think Dame's viable, though. When he's under $9,000, you always got to like him. And I think Trae Young's also viable going against Minnesota. That total is at 236, and that's increased 2 points since it opened. And that's the highest total of the night by 10 points. So I think Trae Young has really high upside, but I think these two are really expensive. I'm dropping down to Spencer Dinwiddie, he's still starting without Kyrie, and he's going against Cleveland, who's just one of the worst defenses in the league. I think they're at 24th in defensive efficiency. And then I also like Brad Wanamaker at $4,300.
Definitely.
He's the guy starting for Kemba. Kemba's out with a neck injury. You all know that, I think. And I also love Malcolm Brogdon at $6,000. This is almost just like a misprice. I wrote about it in my article today. I think it's almost like an error. I mean, $6,000 for Malcolm Brogdon. He's averaging 39 DK points per game this year. And 2 weeks ago, he was $88,000, $8,800. So, I mean, $6,000, that's just an error. And he's going against Memphis that has allowed the fourth most DK points to point guards. So I think Malcolm Brogdon is almost like a lock button tonight.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And going off of your talking about Minnesota, they actually have the most possessions per game. Talking about they're going against Atlanta, right? So offensively, the Timberwolves have the most possessions per game in the league. They're actually tied with Milwaukee. That's a faster-paced game, any way you look at it. And that's an environment that Trae Young can thrive in. So, yeah, if you're going to pay up for a point guard, that's a great call. Yeah, Dinwiddie, he's so good without Kyrie right now. You just have to keep him. I think that's a great pivot off of these higher-priced guys. I think you're really going to get, it's around 40 points. And then, his ceiling, we've seen 50 DK points. So I really like that. The Heat are in a good position too, so I think we're going to talk about them in this half hour. The Heat are playing Charlotte, and all of these Charlotte games we've been talking about are crazy this year. So if you want to get Dragic, I'm okay with that. I think he's reasonably priced, so I'm good with Dragic at 5,100 against Charlotte. I mean,
absolutely, dude. Yeah, I mean, Charlotte's just been terrible on D. They're one of the teams you always want to pick on. They're 25th in efficiency. And but the only main concern, there's a lot of Miami guys that are cheap tonight. We're going to get to them when we get to the other positions, like Gordon's cheap, Bam's cheap, and Jimmy Butler's cheap for himself. But the problem is they're at home, and Charlotte is a team that likes to get blown out. Right. The spread is 10.5. And I got a little stat for you guys. This year at home, Miami has a winning margin of 18.5 points, which is the highest in the league. So I think a blowout is possible. So I do worry about that. But I do like Jimmy Butler. I like Bam, and I like Dragic. I feel like they could get value even if their minutes are limited. But you got to worry about that blowout.
Also,
it's crazy. They just blow out everybody this year.
And also, like in the San Antonio Lakers game, San Antonio is actually 11th in the league in points per game, right? They're actually ahead of the Lakers. I mean, totally different stories here as far as record goes. But the reason why the Spurs are scoring so much is because they're not playing defense. So all of these Lakers tonight are viable, and you have to look at some of these players. On San Antonio, like Murray is at 5,800, DeJounte Murray. And yeah, I think that's a really good spot for him. I mean, every time he's back, he's going to be playing a lot of minutes. They are guard heavy. They like to use their guards, but Murray has been pretty consistent for you.
Yeah, he's shown pretty big upside this year, even though his minutes haven't been that high. And he's also got rested in their last game. So DeJounte Murray should be fresh, but the matchup's tough against LA. LA is one of the best defenses in the league. But like you were saying, San Antonio is just terrible on defense.
Right.
I wrote in my article today, it's arguably the worst defense of the Popovich era. They're 28th in defensive efficiency, which is second worst. They're allowing the 5th best field goal percentage against them, and they're allowing 116 points in the month of November. They've just looked awful on D, and the Lakers, I think they have the 4th highest team total of the night. But either way, they should put up a lot of points for sure, and that leads me to players like Anthony Davis and LeBron.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think AD is just, you have to keep playing him while he's under 10 grand, and this matchup is so good for him. So that's an awesome play at power forward, and just going to the shooting guard now. The values for the night, I'm looking at a lot of Danny Green and Caldwell Pope, just because we're talking about the San Antonio team being so bad defensively. Danny Green coming back to San Antonio since Avery Bradley's been out and Caldwell Pope's moved to that starting role. Both of these guys have actually been playing very well, and they're both at a good price at 4,400.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to play Danny Green, so there you go if you want to revenge factor it. But I'm more so attacking like these point guards that are shooting guard eligible, like Malcolm Brogdon. You can play as a shoot guard.
Yep.
Spencer Dinwiddie and Wanamaker, all three of them you can play at point guard or shooting guard. So I'm trying to utilize as many guards as I can, and I usually do that too. So
yeah, no, that's fantastic advice, honestly, because if you can get Brogdon in there at $6,000 on a shooting guard, and then get one of these higher guys like
Dinwiddie.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's fantastic. It's a good pairing right there. I have to at least look at Zach LaVine. I mean, at 75, coming off of a monster game, really was,
incredible, dude. That play at the end, man.
Oh no, that whole series. I mean, I think they scored 15 points in like 40 seconds or something.
I don't know the exact stat, but that was insane.
And then of course, LaVine had 7 threes in the fourth quarter. Unreal. Yeah. So look,
that's your guy.
Well,
that's your guy.
He's hot.
That's your man.
And we know he has something to prove to the coach, right? We know that because I mean, there was a lot of words being thrown around by the head coach. I'm having trouble thinking of his name right now, but look, LaVine, if he's hot like this and it's a good matchup, the Blazers are 24th against shooting guard position as far as DK points. Yeah, I mean, it's a good matchup, and if he's going to stay hot, you want to ride that wave. So I think that's a decent play at shooting guard. I mean, I know that it's not always fun to play Andrew Wiggins, but my goodness, man. I mean, it's tough not to play him at this point. I mean, he's had back-to-back kind of disappointing games, but it's a great matchup, and we know the usage is going to be there for Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, he's really having like a bounce-back season. And Atlanta's really bad against small forwards, so this is definitely a spot if you want to attack Wiggins. He's just a little too expensive for me. But real quick, back to LaVine. Yeah, Portland's just been bad on defense this year without, Mo Harkless left, Aminu left, and obviously Nurkic's hurt. And they got Whiteside, lackadaisical Whiteside in the middle now. So they're 22nd in defensive efficiency. And that game, Portland has the second highest over-under game total of the night. So it's definitely – and it's a 1-point spread in favor of Portland. So that's definitely a good game to attack. So I like LaVine a lot for GPPs.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we look at these players like Harden in the past, where he's gone off for 50 points. A lot of times he can do that again, right? I mean, we can look back to these guys. I mean, look, LaVine isn't that. But when you have a big game and it was so close and a good matchup, I mean, you have to at least look at that. Of course, he could lay a stinker. I think that he's going to get the minutes. They pulled him from that Miami game because it was a blowout, and so they just pulled him early. But I think he's a good play tonight. I also like Jeremy Lamb tonight, 5,800, and every time he's been in, I mean, back on the first against Cleveland, 42 points. That was a great matchup. He has an awesome matchup tonight, and at 5,800, I think you could do a lot worse. I can see a lot of people playing him in the small forward spot against Memphis at home. I think Jeremy Lamb's in a good spot. Yeah,
he should be lower owned too. A couple guys I also like is Jaylen Brown. He should see a bump without Kemba. Gordon Hayward's obviously out, and Daniel Tice got ruled out. And we've seen Jaylen really work well on the glass this year, so I wouldn't rule a double-double out for him. He's $6,800, which is a lot, but still, I think he's really valuable. And another one is Evan Fournier. His usage has been really up without Vooch, his usage has gone over 30% in the last 2 games. He scored 34 and 35. So I don't think he's bad at all either against Detroit, who struggled on D this year. But he's also small forward eligible too.
Right. So. Yeah, one of those point guard shooting guards though is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 6,700. You know, you have to play these guards against Golden State, especially because they're going to be in Golden State. You think that could be maybe a little bit more competitive. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just had a 40-point game in his last outing against the Lakers, who you mentioned good defensively. What's that?
Yeah, I just worry about Shai when he's on the road. He's averaging literally 10.5 more points at home this season. It kind of shows his age when he goes on the road. So
that's a good call. No, that's great. Yeah. I mean, I like Shai. I think it's a good matchup, but you know,
of course, the matchup's awesome.
Yeah, but why would you play Shai when you could play, you know,
Brogdon
at 6,000?
Yeah,
but
so yeah, like small forward.
Yeah, I mean these Miami Heat small forwards are also tempting. Like tonight, you know, like I want to play Tyler Hero. I want to play guys like that because I think that this can be like a high scoring game with the Heat. But at this small forward spot, I mean, are you paying up for Giannis in a bad matchup? I think that's kind of tough to do when there's a lot of good options here.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it for cash, but for GPPs, I really think it's viable. I mean, Giannis, this is a crazy stat considering how good Utah is at D. In his last 3 with Utah, he's averaging 63.9 DK points per game against them. And Giannis, he's always much better at home. I mean, this season he's averaging 4.3 more points, fantasy points at home this season. So I don't really mind it from GPPs. And I think you're never going to get Giannis at a low ownership. But when he's playing Utah, you will. So, but I'm not saying for cash games. I think there's much better values, but I don't think he's out of play.
Yeah, the name I was thinking about earlier for a small forward was Duncan Robinson, actually, for small forward. So it's a good matchup. He's definitely had bad games in the past couple of games, but he's getting 30-plus minutes a night. So you have to look at that in a good matchup, which I think can be higher scoring. I think if you want to save some money at this position, like total opposite, obviously, if you're not playing Giannis, 4,300 at Robinson in a really nice matchup. I think that could be a nice play. Again, lower ownership guys, value guys. But what do you think of Jimmy Butler? We're talking about this Miami and Charlotte game. Is Butler a good option at 7,700?
Yeah, I mean, just like Brogdon, this is a really weird price cut for him. I mean, $7,700. His last game he was 86.
Right.
Now he's at home against Charlotte. I understand the blowout concerns, but DraftKings usually isn't pricing people based on blowout concerns. You know.
Right.
I still think Jimmy Butler could get you 40 tonight, even if this game becomes a blowout. And he's definitely one of the better values at small forward. He's just looked great with the Heat. And then, like I said, Jaylen Brown's good. But Jason Tatum's the one that's seen the biggest bump without Tice, without Walker, and Hayward all combined. In the minutes he's played without those guys this season, I mean, it's not a big sample, but his usage goes up 6.9%. So that's really, I mean, that's a nice boost. And then his rebound percentage goes up 5% without these 3 players too. So just like Jaylen, we've seen him really work on the glass in games. And without Tice out there, I think there's a pretty good chance JT could get you a double-double. And I think he's the better value over Jaylen Brown, but they're both really good plays.
Yeah, I'm definitely with that. I'm scrolling down, looking at some of these guys here. Who are like some mid-tier guys, maybe around the 5,000 range that you're looking at this position, if anybody?
Draymond. I mean, if Draymond's healthy, I think he's a really good play. In these last 3, he started at point guard, which is crazy, but whatever. I mean, he's averaging 35 DK points per game in these last 3 as the Warriors starting point guard without deloading. And I mean, he's just super cheap for his price, man. If he's starting at point and healthy, OKC is the solid defense, but I think they rank 14th, $5,600. I mean, Draymond could get you a double-double, and he'd be a really good play, I think.
Yeah, you're always playing Draymond.
Dude, I don't know. When he's that cheap, man, Draymond. I mean, there's points when Draymond was an $8,000 player.
Right. No, I'm with it. And then, you know, speaking of value, like we're looking at Anthony Davis under 10 grand. We know this guy can get 60 just like that. And in this matchup tonight, I'm playing a lot of Anthony Davis. I think that, you know, that you just really have to look at that value because he could easily be 11.5, something like that. But pivoting right off of Anthony Davis, Sabonis is in an awesome spot and has been great.
Yeah, Memphis has been terrible against bigs, so I definitely think Sabonis. And Sabonis won't be highly owned at all. he'll be under the radar on this slate for sure. And back to AD, I mean, when he's under 10 grand, you kind of just have to consider him. And we just talked about a minute ago how bad this San Antonio defense is. And AD, he didn't do that well on Saturday night against the Grizzlies, but in the 2 games prior, he went over 16 each. So I think above $9,000 players, I think AD is probably the best value. And the other thing that's good about him is you could play him at power forward.
Right.
So,
exactly. Yeah. I think with DraftKings, they're definitely considering the previous matchup or the previous game as far as just points. Because Jimmy Butler, for example, 25 points against Philadelphia, he goes down to 7,700.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that, and it's something to keep track of for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other guy that's a punt that's definitely in play without Daniel Tice is Robert Williams. I don't have the word yet of who's going to start for the Celtics, but it's either going to be Cantor or Robert Williams starting for Tice. And they're both Robert Williams is $3,300 and Cantor is $3,700. Right. And they're both like a point per minute producers. And I think those two will split the time right down the middle. I'm going to prefer whoever starts, but Robert Williams, given that he can be played at power forward versus Cantor who can't, I think they're both great plays, but Robert Williams being able to be at power forward is really valuable.
Yeah, I'm with that. Are you looking at any of these, looking at kind of like a cheaper option at power forward? Any of the Golden State guys, like talking about Spellman, I mean, he's been good recently, but it's really tough for me to see actually who they're going to utilize. If Draymond doesn't play, obviously he becomes more of an option like Spellman or Chris. But is that kind of just like a crapshoot for you, and just you'd rather go somewhere else?
It is kind of a crapshoot, and I would rather look other places. But in GPPs, I think Pascal is just always a great target, man.
Yeah,
he can really fill it up, even when Draymond plays. I mean, he got 29 the last game that was against Utah, and then he got 32, 28, 42, 27. So he's pretty consistent without D'Angelo Russell in the lineup.
Yeah,
I wouldn't go towards him in cash with given all the values we have, but I would definitely consider him in GPPs. Absolutely.
Yeah, Pascal's really good. And if Draymond doesn't play, that's definitely Pascal. I think is great.
He'll see a bump. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Another one that's really cheap at power forwards, Gallinari.
Yeah.
We talk about the Warriors; they're the worst rated defense in the NBA, and Gallo's only 59. Another one is Neiman Valencia. He's been playing pretty well, and Boston's probably going to be a little bit weaker on defense without Tice. If they start Cantor, I mean, the Celtics are going to allow a lot of points. We saw in that previous game that Cantor started and Robert Williams and Daniel Tice were out, and they gave up their highest point total of the year to the Wizards. So they're definitely going to be weaker on defense without Daniel Tice out there. So I don't mind Neiman.
How are you feeling about Karl Anthony Towns? I mean, I think at 10-4 in the center position, that's a great price in this matchup. I think Karl Anthony Towns could be in for a big night.
Yeah, he's one of the better studs. Him and AD are kind of neck and neck. I kind of favor AD by a little bit just based on the price. But we talked about it earlier. I mean, this is the highest point total of this 11-game slate. Yeah. Hawks and Wolves. It's 236 points. I always prefer Towns on the at home versus on the road. But in his last 2 against the Hawks, he's averaging 70.8 DraftKings points per game.
Right.
So we know he can expose them, and he can always go off. I just like him better at home. But that doesn't mean don't play him.
Hassan Whiteside is back, 6,100. It's a great matchup, and I think that's just underpriced just because he's been so in and out.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Brogdon, Jimmy Butler. These are just weird price cuts. And Whiteside missed the last game, but he's only $6,100 now. I mean, he went all the way up to $7,400 this year. And now he's going to be playing against Chicago, who's a really good matchup for centers. I think they allow some of the most offensive rebounds in the league. I don't have it on hand right now, but they're really weak inside, and then Whiteside should outproduce that price tag. But he's always someone that could give you a headache.
I have no idea if Kevin Love is playing tonight. I know he's questionable. Do you have any word on Kevin Love?
I just got it. Larry Nance is going to start for Kevin Love. Kevin Love is out, presumably. He's out with a back injury.
Got it. So that brings me to Nance Jr. I was going to say he had an awful game last game when Kevin Love didn't play. So I think that you can slide him right back in at 5,700 at that power forward spot. Yeah,
that's just the matchup's perfect against Brooklyn. Brooklyn is last year they were terrible against big men, and they remain terrible against big men. We were talking about Minnesota being really fast. Brooklyn's 5th in pace too.
Right.
So they're always allowing a lot of points to big men. But Larry Nance at 57, I like him in this spot. I think he's definitely viable, especially you can play him at center and power forward. But I think there's better cheap values. Like I think Cantor and Robert Williams are better values, but Larry Nance definitely.
Yeah, if you're doing a guard heavy like lineup and you need, like if you're going like a Robert Williams or something like that center, yeah, then Nance might be a good option.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Let's see. Anybody else from this power forward spot that we didn't get to? Power forward or center?
I kind of slid over to the center. Bam is super cheap. Yeah. I mean, the Hornets have been terrible inside this year, man.
Yeah.
And he's only $7,100. I mean, it's like they put him for the Bulls do pretty well tonight. He should definitely outproduce that price tag. I mean, Charlotte's allowed the most points in the paint this year, so Bam should definitely do some work.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome play at 7,100. Most definitely.
A sneaky one I got is Miles Turner. He's always had dramatic home and away splits. He's only $6,100 going against Memphis at home. I could see him surprising. I mean, he's not my favorite play, but for GPPs, he should come with single-digit ownership, and I could see him going over 40. I mean, he's done it a couple times this year. He's been kind of bad recently going under 30 and back-to-back, but before that, we saw him go 44 against the Bucks. And now he's at home against Memphis, and he's always someone you want to target at home. So I'm
having trouble finding any value centers besides the Celtics centers tonight, potentially.
Yeah, they are the two best values.
Yeah,
they definitely are. And like I said, whoever starts is the better one, but they're both in play for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Cantor, he doesn't need to play 30 minutes or something to return value, especially at under $4,000. I mean, Cantor used to be priced at $5,500 as a Nick, and he'd only play 20 minutes. He can get you a double-double, absolutely. And I doubt he's limited anymore. He was limited when he returned 2 weeks ago, but I mean the times have changed now.
Or is there any situation where you're playing Cantor if he doesn't start?
Yeah, I definitely. I would prefer whoever starts for cash games, but for GPPs, the other one definitely pivot to him for sure. And I think Cantor's in play either way, even if he doesn't start. But like I said, I just kind of slightly prefer whoever does.
All right. So Rudy Gobert, I just want to touch on him real quick. At 8,600, he's questionable right now, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Have you gotten any word on Rudy? Because I mean, if he doesn't play, there's got to be something that pops up as far as opportunity for someone here.
Yeah, Tony Bradley started for him last game against the Pelicans. He played 22 minutes and he got 26 DK points, and he was 1 rebound away from a 14 and 10 double-double. So I definitely think he'd be viable, but that game's at 8, and we already have the Celtics news. But I don't mind waiting out. I mean, you can make a GPP lineup and not play one of the Celtics guys and wait out, and hopefully that you can play Tony Bradley at a similar price.
Right. No, definitely. It's going to be tough because you're going to have to wait around for that one. But definitely know for the later games that Tony Bradley could be a great value at 4,000.
And who knows? We might get it in, I don't know, the next 20 minutes. So
yeah, that would be ideal. It's probably not going to happen that way. To be honest. But hey, anything else from the guards that we didn't get to?
From the guards, let me think real quick.
Go back to the guards real quick while we have a few minutes. I think Mike Conley is interesting. 6,900. That's probably too rich for my blood, honestly, for Mike Conley.
Like we said, talked about drop
is interesting.
Go on. Yeah, Teague is interesting in that high total.
Yeah,
and don't forget it's a revenge game.
Oh, I didn't forget. 6,300 might be a little pricey for Teague. I'd like that to be a little bit lower. Obviously, you're not playing Holiday at 6,100. Don't play Holiday. Brogdon and Jeremy Lamb are back. There's no need to play him at 6,100.
Someone that I always like. I think he's just a great player in general in real life. And without Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet's just been a stud, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's just been great, and he goes over 40 minutes all the time. If the game stays competitive, which it should at home against Philly, I mean, he could play 40 to 44 minutes. So at $8,000, and the $8,000 price tag is high for him. So I think people are going to shy off, but dude, he could, off sheer volume, he could get it done. No matter the matchup too. Philly's an extremely tough matchup, but that should keep his ownership low for Fred VanVleet. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just scrolling down here. Kai Bowman at 5,800, man. It just seems too expensive, I don't want to pay that much for Kai Bowman, where it's a great matchup and everything, and he's getting a lot of minutes, but you definitely have to pivot off that somewhere else. I mean, you can't justify paying 5,800 for him. I mean,
but you got to know he got the 41 last game because Draymond didn't play, and Draymond's been starting at point. So, and I'm kind of expecting Draymond to play, but if he didn't, Bowman would definitely be back in the mix.
Definitely. No, yeah, I'm definitely with that.
Yeah.
Darius Garland has been interesting too.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm just looking down at some of these guys. I mean, he gave you 31. I think he was starting. I think he's actually been starting for this Cleveland team. It's just too inconsistent. Along with like guys like Malik Monk that have jumped up recently. It's just so inconsistent, and it's really hard to gauge like what's going on as far as their minutes go. Like Malik Monk, I thought that he was breaking out. I honestly did after that like 3-game stretch, and now like he's back to playing like 19 minutes, something like that. So it's hard to gauge on the consistency of some of these guys.
Yeah, Malik Monk's someone that I've been playing on Yahoo. He's been like bare minimum priced on Yahoo. He's a little more expensive on DraftKings, but I've been playing him over there until he had a stinker last game, but that doesn't mean he can't bounce back. I know someone that's always in play for me too, even at their $5,200 price tag, which is kind of a lot for being a reserve guy, is Rajon Rondo. I mean, going against the Spurs, I could see him having a sneaky night. I mean, he flirts with a double-double even in limited playing time. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm really liking like one of the cheaper shooting guards for the Lakers tonight. I mean, like as much of a joke as Caldwell Pope has been, like he's actually played very well since he's been a starter. I think he's averaging like 13 points a game, nothing crazy, but he's giving you like 4 or 5 rebounds, and he can come away with like 22 points, and he has a high ceiling, which I think in this game, like if this gets a little bit out of hand, he's going to get just like a lot of minutes where maybe LeBron doesn't play the fourth quarter. And it's just Caldwell Pope out there having the ball. I mean, at 4,400, one of those guys, Danny Green or Caldwell Pope, I think it's a nice play.
Yeah, I mean, and no one's going to play him in GPPs.
It's just the usage. Yeah, it's just the usage with Avery Bradley out there, just getting a lot more. And then Rondo has been so, I don't know, erratic as he usually is. You saw him get thrown out of the game the other night.
Of course. I mean, he gets one of those, what every 10 games he gets ejected?
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah. And we just got word Rudy Gobert is a game time decision Monday.
There you go.
So that's definitely a wait and see.
Tony Bradley, though, yeah, that's great. I mean, for 4K, if you can get the word of that, like on the main slate, you might not get it in, but if you're going to play like a late game, I think that's awesome. But he's going to have so much like ownership, obviously, at that point. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, or just wait it out, see what happens. But
yeah,
you got anybody else?
What do you say?
I said, you got anybody else?
Well, I'm just looking at like DeMar DeRozan. Like, has been awesome, right? I mean, it's not the best matchup, but he's been so consistent, and I don't think 7,700 is a terrible price at all. I mean,
no, it's not. But
points per game.
Yeah, no, he's doing well right now. But like I said, I mean, it's tough going against the Lakers. The Lakers are a complete opposite from what they were last year. Last year they were a team we had to attack, but now they're just really slow and they're really stout defensively. So I don't know. I'm not really into any Spurs tonight.
Yeah, I hear you on that. It might be really tough for him to generate like enough possessions to actually do something. So yeah, I mean, you're right. The only thing is they're at home. You have to think that Popovich is going to draw up a good game plan for it. I mean, I know it's been tough for them, but I think that they'll make it a little bit more competitive. So that's why I look at DeRozan, because the price isn't awful. Like if you can pivot off of some of these guys and maybe play DeRozan, which I've been doing recently, and it's worked in the past like week. I mean, where he's been like, usually he's just like a 35, doesn't really do much for your team, but he's been pretty consistent recently.
Yeah, one last guy to note is Tristan Thompson. I mean, his rebounding numbers always go up without Love, and the matchup is just perfect against Brooklyn. I don't know if he's played Brooklyn this year. I kind of feel like he has. No, but either way, Brooklyn is a beautiful spot for him. It just kind of sucks. You can only play Tristan Thompson as a center, so you are sacrificing one of those spots.
That's exactly what I think when I'm about to play him, and I just can't do it. But Kevin Love might not play.
No, he's out. He's out.
Kevin Love's out, so there you go. So that's awesome for Thompson and Nance. I think both of those guys are good. And Clarkson actually does a lot more when Kevin Love isn't in the game.
Yeah, it's kind of hasn't panned out, but like based on data, yeah, he does get the ball a lot more. His usage goes up.
Yeah, I mean he's 5,200. I mean, it's a pretty good matchup. I mean, I think that this could be maybe a sneaky game. Like a lot of those nets, are definitely viable. Like Dinwiddie is just the smash. You gotta play Dinwiddie.
Yeah, Dinwiddie and Brogdon. I feel like you got to lock and load in, and I like Brad Wanamaker a lot.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, check us out. Pick and Roll podcast. We're on almost every week for you for your fantasy basketball needs. We do a lot of season long, but we also touch on DFS. Try to get some good guests in there that have a plethora of knowledge just to throw at you this season. So for all your fantasy basketball needs, check out expandtheboxscore.com. That's where you can find the Pick and Roll, a lot of other great podcasts. We have a lot of great data over there at Expand the Box Score, so go check that out, please. And then subscribe to our podcast, Pick and Roll. It's on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find the Pick and Roll. Al, any last words before we get out of here?
Yeah, if you do subscribe, leave us 5 stars and even leave us a review. And if you guys enjoyed this, tell us on Twitter. We'll keep doing these a couple nights a week, maybe, randomly. And then be sure Flex or Fade, the football version of this Sunday. We always do it 12 noon. We go over the games. We answer season-long and DFS questions. And be sure to check out my DK articles Monday through Friday on Expand the Box Score, my NBA articles. I give you 4 guys to build around, 4 guys I'll be targeting. So go peep those every day.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Later.